Morgan.
Hi, Katie.
Welcome to Scary Smart. So I have this thing that I was gonna I had this whole bit prepared where I was gonna confess this thing to you, but there's too much potential, in our modern life, there's too much potential for a confession about ancestors being really traumatic and terrible. So I'm just gonna tell you that I found out this weekend that I am in a lineage that went to Ohio State.
Oh.
Are we done?
Oh.
We're not going to speak again, right? This is it.
Oh, okay.
Our 9-year relationship is over, right?
I just, Katie, that was, woo, you just dropped one on me. I wasn't ready for that.
I'll tell you.
Help me understand. Yes, help me understand.
Yeah. I found out this weekend. We were celebrating I was down at my parents' house celebrating, observing the day that we lost my other parent a few years ago. And my dad, my dad was talking about how the only time in their very long marriage, my grandfather died when my dad was 12. So I didn't know him, my dad didn't have that long of a relationship with him, but he was like, oh yeah, we were talking about, because he was a farmer. They moved out here from Indiana. They moved out to Washington, and I knew he was a soil scientist. That's what he worked. He worked as a soil scientist, had a farm, raised poults, as he called them, raised turkeys, and he'd been in the military. And I just found out, he's like, well, the one time that your grandma and grandpa almost broke up is when he was getting all these job offers for to be principals and teachers, because she was a teacher, and he kept saying no because he just wanted to be a farmer. And she was like, I almost broke up with him, because he had his master's in education. And I was like, oh, he did? From where? And he was like, Ohio State. And I was like, oh no. Mm-hmm. Is our whole relationship based on a lie?
So this is what I say in situations like this that I will share with you now, right?
Okay.
We can't all be perfect.
We can't.
And so
we know.
I just recognize that you also cannot be perfect.
Yeah. It's an important
want to acknowledge that you did not follow in those very faulty footsteps of your grandfather.
Of my grandfather.
I think what's important to note here. So here's the thing for our listeners who most likely don't care.
Don't understand.
I need to explain. So there's the whole thing about how, the West Coast, right? The Oregon State game used to be called the Civil War. We got the Apple Cup between Washington and Washington State. Michigan and Ohio have hated each other for 150 years at this point.
I mean, at least, right? Yeah.
We went to war with Ohio.
Predate. Yeah.
Over
predate
Toledo.
Statehood, right? Yeah.
Yes, we predate statehood. So we went to war with Ohio over Toledo. Ohio got Toledo. We got the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. If you do not know that there is an Upper Peninsula to Michigan, please go look at a map. Most people don't. And obviously, it's the hands out, yes. And obviously, we got the better end of the deal. Yeah. And so the University of Michigan, Ohio State rivalry is one of the longest rivalries in the nation.
Yeah.
We do it better than everybody else. I remember before
you hate better is what you mean. Yeah, you guys
those Pac-10
were better.
Oh yes, we are much better. Oh, how I hate Ohio State is a very popular one. What is it? Buck the Fuck Eyes is another very popular.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was real news to me.
Even though I'm like, even though I'm not strongly aligned with the University of Michigan as an alum, I still have principles and values in life. And
Still
so,
still
you
here.
know, as an upstanding citizen, I hate Ohio State.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's a birthright, I think.
oh,
Even though
I was
you
gonna
weren't
say it's
born there, right? Yeah,
in Michigan?
right?
No, but
Weren't
I'm
you
the
born
only
in
one out of my family who
right,
was
you're the
not born in
only
Michigan.
yeah.
I'm the only one who was born in Oregon. So, and when Oregon played Ohio State a few years
Mm.
before a lot of the Pac-10 teams joined the Big Ten, there were like articles from like about Michigan trying to educate Oregon on how to appropriately hate Ohio State.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean
I mean, I've seen worse things. There's somebody else that I don't know if you ever met her in Seattle, but her parents went to Michigan. Her husband is a huge Ohio State fan, did not go to
oh,
Ohio State, and she has converted to being an
to be
Ohio
a
State fan.
oh,
And I just um but again, we can't all be perfect.
no, we can't.
And um while this is I think we can move past this. I think we can move through this.
I mean, I gotta
Um
think about it.
ultimately, I believe both of
Are you
our
happier
number
that I told
one,
you?
as
Like, are
opposed
you
to
happy
keeping
you
it a
know, or should I
secret.
yeah, should I have kept it a secret? Should I have kept it a dark secret?
I
It's one of
think
those,
it's a
like, you know,
test.
like, do people
It's a
tell people about cheating because it makes them feel better?
yeah.
Like, is this something that was burning a
Hmm.
hole in my pocket? Like, did I hurt you more
Yeah.
by telling you?
I don't think so, because I think it's a testament to the strength of this 9-year relationship
That's true.
that
We can survive
we
this.
could work through this.
Yeah. And we can
We
talk
can
about the
survive
reality that apparently his
this.
master's of education was so
And
important to
as
him that he
long
almost lost his own relationship because he wouldn't take any education
as when
degrees.
you are presented with the opportunity.
Oh, am I slowing down?
Sorry. My computer was having feelings about.
Yeah,
I
now your
don't know
computer's
who it
upset with
was.
me.
I think my computer is having feelings about the fact that I'm still friends with you.
Yeah,
But
I think so too.
but you know, it's okay. And as long as whenever you are presented with the opportunity to root against Ohio State and take that opportunity,
Oh yeah.
um, we'll be okay. We can make it. We
Yeah,
can make it through this.
as long as I don't like
Um,
discover that this is my new like villain. This is like a villain origin story. As long as I don't discover that this is my villain origin story
yeah.
and I become like Ohio State. Yeah. I mean, my allegiance to universities
Um,
is lower uh than I mean, like I grew up being a University of Washington fan, both of my parents having gone to Washington going to Wazoo. And like a couple months ago
mm,
I said to I'm like a little bit of a contrarian, so like the fact that my grandfather went to university and I need to stay like on the other side is like pretty it's that is all contrarianism is in the blood. As well
mhm.
as apparently a little bit of Ohio State. But a couple weeks ago I said to Albert I said something about Couganet and he was like he'd never heard that before and I was like, "Oh, that is like if you live in Washington, you got to know about Couganet." I feel like there's a lot of different teams, but it's sort of like because the Mariners have, you know, like Mariners also recently didn't make it to the World Series, and I think they're the only Major League Baseball team that has not made it to the World Series at
Mm,
all. And so I was
yeah.
talking about how the Mariners were Couganet, and it's important to, yeah, like,
That was also a tough day in this household. I mean, not for my partner, obviously.
right.
Um,
Yeah, it was a
but
bummer.
the Mariners did beat the Tigers.
Yes.
And I, there's been a lot of having to like re-rank my allegiances that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ultimately, when we found out that the Pac-10 was basically merging with the Big Ten,
Right.
um, the University of Washington outranks them all. All right, it's
Okay.
both given the education I've received there, but also
Right.
um, the you know the strict family allegiance and
Yeah.
the faculty,
Yeah.
etc. From that
Exactly.
university. It was made very clear to me I never had a choice. Um, second place is the University of Oregon, which I call my first alma mater because I did go to
That's so
preschool
interesting. You
at the
went to preschool
University
there,
of
right?
Oregon.
Yeah,
So,
interesting.
like, and not just like in Eugene, I went to preschool at the University of Oregon. So,
That's wild. Yeah,
yeah.
first alma mater.
Um, so, you know, I think at
Yeah,
the end
you've
of the
got a
day,
lot of
you and
ties.
I both have our first
Yeah,
allegiance is still to the correct university, and we still have
yeah,
that in common.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, if I'm being honest, I literally at the beginning it was picking it for the contrarianism and um I mean, I guess my dad did go to grad school at UW. And I was also like, my parents moved when like 2 weeks before my due date. So you know, I was gestated at UW, I guess is the way to describe that.
mm, mm.
Um it's a weird way to describe it.
In a
Probably
very
won't do that
weird way.
again.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
okay. I mean, that it is a way to describe it. That is
it is a way to
accurate.
describe it. Yeah. I mean, it's better than some other ways. Like, I don't like to talk about my own conception, um, mostly because I just think
Yeah,
conception's
I
kind of
mean,
garbage. But yeah, I was gestated.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it did grow
yeah.
inside. Mm,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but yeah,
Wow,
anyway,
this
we're
took a
gonna move
really
on from that.
bad turn. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like it turns out, like we started out with what was gonna be your trauma, and then it became mine. Let's just let's move on from all of that.
Just gonna move on.
To
Yeah.
say that I wanted to talk with you about time and white supremacy
Mm-hmm.
culture, and I
Mm-hmm.
want
Mm-hmm.
to complain about something. And just all
Mm-hmm.
dominance, like all cultures of dominance. I mean, we're in a world right now, whenever you're watching this, Scary Smarties, we're in a world where like dominance and, power hoarding is in a special, it's in in the zeitgeist in a way that
It's
it
the new black, you know?
yeah. Exactly.
Sorry. It's just
No, exactly. But it's like it's riding high right now. And
mm-hmm.
so I found myself in the last couple of weeks having these encounters with people. I, through the majority of the pandemic, was running a nonprofit where I was working really hard to like confront these issues of white supremacy culture. And if our listeners don't know about the like the literature on white supremacy culture, we can link to that. But there are a number
Mm-hmm.
of features that really prop up this system of white supremacy,
Mm-hmm.
and especially find themselves like perniciously show up in like professional settings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the professional
In
setting that I was
Western
in, oh, go on.
in Western culture, when we are
Yes,
thinking about those countries that have been colonized by Western culture.
yeah,
Yeah.
colonial spaces and like
Well,
in
Western
whatever
colonial
way
spaces,
whiteness,
right?
right?
Like
Western,
separate
yeah,
from Western imperialism and
yeah,
colonialism, which is different and the same to other
yeah.
types. But continue.
Yeah, because it could be you might not be in the Western world, but colonized by the West, you still have suffered from this. So, but the thing that I have like spent a lot of time thinking about how to try to move away from those, and because the thing is like those that the idea these issues are assumptions, and so one of them that I find really interesting, and I have just found myself feeling the discomfort that everyone is in is this idea of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, this is something that people get messed up by
Mm-hmm.
because in professional settings, because the idea is like timeliness is next to godly. Is that a thing? I think that's cleanliness, but whatever.
It
People,
is, but also that, yes.
yeah, yeah. This idea of like, you know, there's a
Yes.
very specific idea about like being timely and being and like what it means to be on time, right? That there's a lot of that about like what it means to be professional. And so
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time trying to unlearn some of the things, trying to like make our like new ways of doing that. And really one of the ways that I ended up like fixating on this idea was people often give each other deadlines based on like in a way to control each other. I feel like I discovered this when I
Mm-hmm.
was like when I started being really intentional. So I would like your opinion on this. I find often deadlines get set based on like how long someone thinks something should take, as opposed to when they will use the thing you've done. And so I would say it took several years to get really pretty good in myself and as like a group in the organization I was in, at like only like asking for things with like if there was a little lead time that was necessary. I don't know, I've gotten so fuzzy. The computer really hates me pushing back on urgency. Computers run on urgency, I will say. Yeah. So basically saying, okay, I'm going to review all these grant applications. We want them due because of that. We're going to like, we need someone to be able to run through them to make sure there's, they're all ready to be reviewed, or, since that person's going to start that on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And this also was important because we were in so many different time zones. And so we would say, this person's going to start that review at 9 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So they're not due at midnight the night before.
Yeah.
They're due at 8 a.m. or they're due at 8:45, on that at that time, because that's when the person's going to use them, and people get to have all that time up to there. And then the same thing is like, we don't just like, so chunking out like, when are we actually going to do the work? And so I spent a lot of time doing that. And then I left that work and I spent a lot of time talking about it with our like members. We had a lot of members, so it wasn't like something that we only did. And we were like, this is the expectation. Like when we partner with people, we're like, hey, we're giving you this is when you'll get it. So this is this is why we're requesting this from you. We try to like show our work around that. But I left that place. And then like, I kind of forgot that the rest of the world doesn't do that. And so a couple weeks ago, I was asking people to fill out a survey because I needed to use it to pick some programming for this thing I'm facilitating. And I sent them a reminder a couple days before I'd asked them to get it to me. And the person who filled it out, like, emailed me immediately at my reminder. And I was like, I'm so sorry I didn't do this. Like, I missed it. I'm like, so sorry. I was like, you got 2 days. Yeah. Still have 2 days. This was a reminder. Like, I won't even look at it for 2 more days. But the like anxiety that my reminder created about the deadline, reminder created, reminded me of how toxic, how like, how when people send you something, there is an expectation in some people that are sending it and receiving it that you're actually always asking for something ASAP.
Yeah.
How do you encounter this? Does it hurt you?
Yeah.
Do you see it in your work?
It's such an interesting, so where I am seeing this interface is with my ADHD also.
Yeah, tell me.
And so I'm thinking about the ways in which deadlines are so important, and that a sense of urgency is like the thing that gets me to get things done.
Right.
Which is, but that is a sense of urgency in that is how my brain works, not a sense of urgency as in it is attached to white supremacy culture.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, I think
but that's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that in this context either, Morgan.
Yeah.
The idea that sometimes when you ask somebody for something, you're like, I need to do it now because otherwise I'm going to forget. That is a different type of urgency. And
I also think about like the ways in which, it's so interesting. I feel like it in so many ways, it goes organization by organization.
Yeah.
I think it has so much more to do with company culture than like a consistent through line, because it's like, I know that nobody on my team is going to get this done by the deadline. So I set the deadline 3 days earlier so that I can then be like, oh, you still have not completed this thing. And I've got 3 whole days to actually get it out of them.
Right.
But then this idea of like a sense of control, or like everything is urgent all of the time. I think like the way that came up for you in that example, like that is the perfect example of sense of urgency in white supremacy culture, in which everything is urgent all of the time, and you are expected, sense of urgency. I'm not quite sure. So The name is escaping me right now, but obviously we'll put this in the
Yeah.
link.
Yeah.
The characteristics of white supremacy culture has recently been rewritten,
Yeah.
and the author that is still living has grouped them. And so I
Yeah.
don't think sense of urgency and perfectionism have been grouped together at this point, but they also interplay with each
Oh.
other.
Yeah.
And so how does perfectionism play into both one's own sense of urgency and like
Right.
everything must be immediate and I always have to do this on time? How does historic trauma in the workplace influence a
Yeah.
person to do those things? Um, and then how does the current company culture represent
Yeah.
that? And I think too, when I would train organizations on this, that was one of the questions I would ask is like, what is the company culture around being late,
Right.
right? Or um, what is the company culture around? Well, the example I always gave was the printer, right? But
Mm.
because there are always rules about how you use the printer at an
Mm.
organization, those
Yeah.
rules are never written out, never explained to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. That is a
And
cultural
so
problem at every at
exactly.
every
And
like
like
yeah.
and you're most likely going to get in trouble, right? So like I
Yeah.
remember I had one person where I printed something in color on accident and someone's like, "Ooh, you're going to get in trouble with Carol." And you could like hear Carol like marching down past all from her
Right.
cubicle. And
Yeah.
then I had another boss who printed on color like he thought it didn't cost money. And like and it's just like some places you got to enter a code. Some places you got to
Right.
enter a code for every single grant. Some places don't
Right.
care.
Mhm.
And so I feel like kind of, and I feel like I use that as an illustration of the
Yeah,
ways in which
totally.
different company cultures work, and then all of this unspoken culture that happens in spaces,
Yeah.
and very often, right, the unspoken culture is white culture
Yes.
slash white supremacy culture as it has been built in.
Yeah. Yeah, the default is it's gonna be urgent. Like, that's the thing that I'm describing is it's like that's the default is that we haven't, identified another culture, so the default is that you would expect me to get this to ASAP, because that's the expectation of white supremacy culture, right? That's what I'm
Yeah,
seeing with this person who I don't know very well, having this
yeah.
reaction, like, this anxiety reaction to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or like what
I
has
mean,
happened historically.
yeah, and I think that, like, what you're talking about that both in terms of reckoning with urgency around your own dopamine regulation,
Mm-hmm.
around completing executive, like having executive functioning, and this idea of trauma, and so like potentially using urgency and deadlines, time as a mechanism of appropriate mechanism of control, right? That it is an appropriate, like, if it is
Mm.
your responsibility to
Mm.
get something from someone and you know that they are not going to get it to you at that time, because that is the
Yeah,
culture. The culture is that we at this organization is that we miss deadlines. Then it
yeah,
would be irresponsible of me to make it the moment I need it, because then I won't be able to do the work.
yeah. Because it's kind of like,
So yeah,
is it participating in control in white supremacy culture when you always tell that one aunt that dinner is an hour earlier,
right.
right? Like you are essentially controlling them, but also their inability to show up on time impacts
Controls the
everybody.
rest of everyone. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Is like when you're talking about that,
Mhm,
you're making me realize how much my feeling about this idea of time comes from my own mother. And like, the
mhm,
joke in I was recently watching The Dropout, which I really love, and it's a really great show called Smarty Pants. We should do a
mhm,
crossover with Scary Smart and Smarty Pants sometime. Um, where people do these like little like 10-minute presentations, like PowerPoint presentations
mhm,
about something. And it starts out with this about being late. And this guy was being really intense about it. And then he like circles back and talks about the experience of having always been the last kid to be picked up. And I have
mhm,
like, I started at first, I was like really annoyed with him. And then I was like, oh no, he's just describing my childhood. My mom was
mhm,
like terminally late to everything. Like, she used to be like, "Oh, I didn't make lunch." So, when I was like 7, like would say like, "I'll bring it to you." And I would have to stay inside I would miss lunch. Everyone else is eating, stay inside for all of recess. And then she would bring it to me like an hour and a half, like an hour before school's supposed to end. Like it's just like,
mhm.
that's my whole childhood. We used to make this joke. People would be like, "I wonder how math starts." Cause we would just like never hadn't been for the first 35 minutes of a mass for like a decade.
Mm.
Just, it's great to
Yeah.
find out how that starts. Like,
Yeah. But then also like very cultural, right? Like
yes,
go to a Black church service that either one starts on time or two is not 3 hours long. Like, right?
right,
Like this whole
right,
very cultural piece. But I think when I think about the realm of control, right? The whole, if you're not early or early, you're on time
right,
you're late, don't show up at all.
right.
And I really experienced this with my softball team, where when we had indoor practice before all the snow melted, welcome to Michigan.
Yeah.
We were always the last team to practice of all of the outdoor sports that needed the gym. Also, welcome to Northern Michigan. We had one gym to facilitate this. Yes. So everybody on my team was always just like sitting around by the weight room at least 30 minutes before practice started. It was just like culturally, you just
Really?
showed up and you were just like hanging out in the hallway waiting for practice to start. Everybody on the team. Because if you showed up late, and then, a long story for later, I helped facilitate getting that coach fired because he was such a horrible, abusive individual.
Like a punish. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that piece of like, that was control. And he really got a kick out of controlling teenage girls. And because it was sports, it was allowed, right?
Yep,
like,
absolutely.
And we were a team that won. And so obviously like this mixing up the ideas of like control and abuse with
performance and like encouragement and like, making you your best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in sports. I think that idea of urgency and like using urgency and perfectionism as a method of control is huge.
100%. Yes. And punishment, right?
Exactly.
Lack of perfectionism results in punishment.
Yeah. So 1 minute late, everyone runs lines and everyone's pissed at you.
Yes. Yeah. Also, so yes, it like the idea that is creating a culture of accountability, but is actually just like creating. I remember doing the run where you had to run around the court for basketball and hold the basketball over your head. It's called something. When I was a kid, it was called something that is terrible, so I won't repeat what it was called.
I don't even know what it would be, but okay.
I'll tell you later offline.
Okay, yeah,
we ain't putting that stuff on here.
No, but putting that back out into the universe. Okay.
No. And I was like the slowest on the team, and there would always be this huge gap. And my coach would say, like, we will keep doing this until the gap is closed. And my team never slowed down. Like,
what?
To my team.
Sorry, I hit my mic because I got so upset.
My team, like, that meant that I was supposed to speed up. My team never compensated from me, right? And
what are they thinking is going to happen?
Right, exactly, right? And so again, it is my shortcoming, my failing. And so this idea that we're somehow building camaraderie or like accountability, but you're actually creating this idea that is counterintuitive to community.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Morgan.
Oh, I mean, girl.
Yeah.
We already know there will be a whole podcast or 5 dedicated
We've talked about that.
Sports.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Youth sports need some unpacking and repacking and shipping out and never shipping, meaning not relationshiping, like to the moon.
Shipping. Do they still say that these days?
I don't know. I heard someone say it the other day, and maybe it's that I was watching an old show, but I heard it. I was like, yeah. I'm ready for that one too.
Someone told me that my love for my partner is amazing because we're both in a committed, healthy, stable relationship, but also I had like a reaction that was the jealousy that might be representative in a situationship. And this person told me that they were jealous, that I was jealous. To be entirely clear, right?
Yeah.
100% on me, based in absolute zero reality. My partner has never caused me to be. It was literally the first time in however long we've been together that I felt a sense of jealousy, and it was entirely of my own making. So like, anyway, I was like, I'm situationship jealousy. Cool.
Are we still saying that? But I guess, yeah.
Well, they're also our age, so,
Okay. Yeah. So it is just like it's just millennial.
It is just millennials having millennial times.
Yeah. Continuing to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Headed toward being at the heading toward being the dominant and thus oppressive, hopefully less so than boomers. And I mean, I find it really, please excuse this. I'm gonna mute for 1 second so I can cough. Please excuse me.
Yeah. It is. Whenever you're listening to this, just know that it is the fall for us currently.
Yeah.
So
autumnally unwell. And like the rest of my did you is that
houses that take autumnally unwell, which is just I just want that on like a poster or something.
I feel like I need to like remind myself of it. That's the thing, is that like it remains.
Put it on a calendar with an annual reminder to add into the sense of urgency and deadline.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, dear listeners. You wouldn't know that because we've recorded this. We've tried to make our podcast many different times, but it's come up more than once that my therapist is very good at saying, like, I like to talk about my therapy and how things are, how they work. How I work my shit out. That would be an ope, I guess. But anyway, she's really, really good at telling me, like, you remember why you're like sick right now, right? Because like every season switch is like really hard on you, or like why, like just a reminder, like this is something that you've asked me to remind you, and I have completely forgotten that I've asked her to remind me, but she does a really good job of reminding me. So I could, that is the type of thing that you could put on a calendar.
Yes. And that is the type of thing that a therapist would remind their ADHD client.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this is a short one in homage to urgency that I just wanted to talk about.
Yes. This for those of you with the short commute, this is for you. Shout out to you.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to you. We are also very interested in I am very interested in like I was really in my feelings about this. I was really like thinking about it and being like, why I had such a strong reaction to that person acting like I was going to be mad at them. I didn't share it with them, but I had this I like immediately started like writing like, you don't have to worry about that, you know, blah 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 blah. And I like went on this whole big like I wrote a podcast script about it basically to that person, and then I was like, okay, they don't need all this. But that I had like a really strong reaction because of the culture that that was being.
But you also had, it's just I find that, okay, so another time we can talk more about this, because I find it so interesting that your reaction to that was to do what some might say is a stereotypical placating and reassurance of somebody else that is expected.
I was angry with them.
You were angry with them?
Yeah.
Interesting. Because like what you just described to me was like trying to make them feel better, which is a very like female, like stereotypical.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't. No, I like explained too much. I went into an over explanation. But I was angry. I was like, why would you think? Like, I didn't say like, you know, like, why would you expect of me that I'm going to be a dick about this? Like, so like, I mean, part of the
personal. Like, what is it about me that made you think this was true? And then you realized
it was way too, I took it way too personally, and so that's why I'm like, why did this happen? Like, this was about, you know, like it couldn't have been less. You know, and I didn't like show anger to them, but like I'm sure my like writing too much, and like that's my own problem. In the past, I've always like filter my anger out, like, you know, and part of that, I mean, that's something that I feel like Scary Smarties, and I know you have this experience a lot, is like I have to be very careful when I show my anger. I'm a thick 6 foot person.
Okay. I need to cut you off because otherwise this is not going to be a short one. It's going to be a long one. So you were about to ask our listeners to share something with us.
Yeah, okay. I want to know what other people, like when other people encounter, whether it's like around urgency and time, and that's a big one that's very fraught. But if people, I have a feeling that some of our listeners would be familiar with what characteristics of a white supremacy culture, places where they encounter these elements, these expectations, and like find themselves sort of unprepared for encountering that. Like I found myself deeply unprepared for encountering it at a time where like I'm like in a facilitation role. I should have been like ready for it. But that idea that, they were projecting on me this idea that I was going to be a real stickler about this thing
I
was
mean, here's what I'll say. I don't think that you were unprepared. I think you were triggered. And so I think
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
would be
yeah.
really interesting to hear like when are folks triggered and when are folks just like actively participating. And right now,
Right.
we're asking our listeners for reflection questions that we love to provide in training settings. But please
Yes.
do let
Yeah,
us know. And let me tell you, we will be up in those comments reading them. We will be
absolutely.
fascinated. We'll be
Yeah.
bringing it up later.
Yeah.
But with that,
What do you
our
that
dear friends.
you nailed the question. I appreciate it. You also are nailing us, keeping us on time. I really appreciate it
Uh-huh.
because I'm the one that needs to go have the
Mhm.
time staring at me. Um in the meantime, we
Stay
look forward to
scary.
reading those questions. Yeah. Stay
Yes.
scary.
Stay smart. Catch y'all on flip side. Bye.